Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, ladies. Welcome to episode 1. This is my dating after divorce story. So 6 years ago, as of 2021, I got divorced. And 4 years after the divorce, I got married again. But when I got back into the dating game, it was really nothing like I expected. Even though I had worked extensively on myself, I had gotten a lot of help, therapy, coaching, done a lot of worked with my children, helped them thrive. I had really rebuilt my life financially and career-wise. Even after all of this, I found out that I had a lot to learn in order to date successfully after my divorce. And the reason, I think, my theory is that when you're married, right, your romantic feelings, your flirty self, your connecting abilities, the way you relate to people other than your spouse, everything around romantic relationships get contained in the bubble of your marriage. And I had been married 17 years. So all of those skills were really put away. The skill of dating, connecting with new people, all of those skills have been put away because I fully expected to be married for the rest of my life. And so dating after divorce felt like stepping out of a bubble into a very different world from when I went to college because, you know, when you go to college, everyone's single for the most part. Most people are single. Everyone's just kind of mingling and meeting people. But then you get divorced in your 30s or 40s or even 50s, and you come out into this world where everything is different. Like people aren't mingling. Most people seem to be married and settled, and now everyone's dating on their phones using apps, and it's so different. So I realized that, oh my gosh, I actually need to change some things. I need to learn some things. I need to do some transformation in order to date again and do it successfully. Now, I had the advantage after my divorce of having taken the time to really craft a clear plan of what I wanted my post-divorce life to look like. And that really served me well in my dating journey. In my marriage, I had allowed myself to become a people pleaser. So I was doing everything to please others, both my spouse, people at church, people in my life. It was really all about making others happy and living up to their standards. All the while I was doing that, I'm, overgiving my own wants and needs and my personal calling and purpose and the things I wanted to do in life were really put on the shelf. I had just kind of shrunk all of those and put them aside to make sure other people's wants and needs were met. Obviously, that was not a great strategy, right? Because I woke up one day and I found out that I had been living a completely ineffective life, like not 100% ineffective. There were good things that were happening in my life. My children were amazing and intelligent, but the gamble that I could put aside my own wants and needs and my own dreams and goals, or even the level of integrity that I wanted to live in, the level of peace I wanted to live in, the level of excellence that I wanted to live in, my strategy of putting all those aside in order to keep the peace or avoid conflict or hold the marriage together really came crashing down. And it really woke me up that I had been super confident and really thought I knew what I was doing, but my strategy had turned out to not be very effective. And if you had told me that being a super mom, super wife, super church volunteer, super giver, super helper, all of those things would have ended the way it did, I really would not have believed anyone who told me that, because I was doing all the things. I was working on the marriage. I was putting others first. I was reading all the marriage books. I read a ton of marriage books. So when everything ended, and the way it ended also had an impact on me, because my ex really took a scorched earth approach to the divorce. And that was unexpected to me as well. So waking up to not only getting divorced, but then seeing this side of the person that I had been living with for 17 years really made me take a good look at myself and my life strategy and my approach to life. I knew that something about the way I was approaching things was wrong, and it wasn't working, right? Or going to work going forward. So I remember during the divorce, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I did a lot of reading. And I remember listening to Lisa Nichols, who is also a life coach, and hearing her tell the story of her own life and everything she went through. And she told the story of a moment when she realized that she was her own rescue. Like, she realized, wait, nobody's coming to save me. Like, my family members and my friends and my church and my pastor and all these people have their own lives. Like, no one is about to drop everything in their life to come and save me. And so she coined the phrase, I am my own rescue. And she talked about how that phrase really changed her approach to life. And I really took that to heart and looked at my own approach to life and asked myself if I was being really 100% responsible, if I was taking responsibility for my own outcomes as though I was an adult who was responsible for her life and responsible for her results. And I realized that I wasn't. Right? I was banking on people giving back to me because I was giving so much to them. I was banking on a spouse who, by his actions, did one thing, but I always continued to, in a way, have a fairy tale approach to our lives and kept hoping for the best and being optimistic and not taking responsibility for examining if what we were producing in that relationship was actually effective. So I kind of took all of that to heart and decided to dig into myself and my own approach and really work on myself. And I remember having to move from out of my 4,000 square foot home that had 7 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms into like a little rundown country house with, I had 3 bedrooms, and 1 bathroom and a basement that had like snake skin in it and spiders. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was just crazy. And nothing had been repaired in that house probably in decades. But that was where I moved into. And I remember the bathroom really vividly. And I would shower in the morning. I would play tapes and messages. And I was really changing the way I thought. And on the mirror, I took this little note card and I wrote the words, "The best revenge is a good life," because I was just so determined to live differently after everything that had happened. And I wrote down kind of a plan of how I wanted to do this. I wrote down a bunch of goals. I knew I wanted to definitely heal and recover and change my thinking. I knew I wanted to rebuild my life financially, career-wise. I wanted to really hit some goals. And I knew I was going to remarry again. I wasn't ready to do it at the time. I really didn't want to do it then, right after the divorce, but I knew I was going to do it again. So I had already set a goal for it. And I think that really served me well when I went into dating again, because I was very clear about my goals. So after the divorce, I kind of went on a journey to stop being a people pleaser. I achieved all the goals. I started traveling. I found new communities and new friendships, what I call safe friends. And as I got to a place of clarity, I was able to kind of make a conscious decision to go back out and date again. And as I did that, it was so helpful for me not to get overwhelmed or scared by it, because I had really built my confidence by working on myself and being really clear-eyed. So I was able to take a lot of the things that happened along the journey in stride while I figured it out, right? So I was an engineering student in college. And so I kind of took that engineering experimental process approach to dating. I wasn't in a hurry I knew that I was like having fun in my life. I knew that I was achieving really big goals. So I was okay with taking my time to date and meet the right person. Having that clarity really helped me deal with some of the things that all of us face, dating online, like having to set boundaries with people that you don't really know really well to keep yourself safe, like not being a people pleaser when you encounter all the online games that some people play online. When you've really worked on yourself, you find that it's easier to recognize those things and just take them in stride and not get overwhelmed. Like I had no drama around saying no thanks, like to any guy who wasn't a fit for me. It actually became a joke among my friend group about how quickly I would drop a guy as soon as I got to the truth that we weren't a fit for a long-term relationship or getting married. Like I had no drama around saying, okay, this is not working for me. Bye-bye. There was this one guy that I dated. I had met him at a conference. So I was doing a lot of traveling. I attended a lot of personal development conferences during this period. And I met this one guy that I thought was pretty cute. We hit it off and we had been dating for about, I would say close to a month. We didn't have a lot of dates during that month, but we were kind of like getting to know each other. We did a lot of video calling and visiting because we lived a little ways away from each other. And I, of course, continued working on my process. So I did a lot of reading and studying around dating and choosing a spouse because I did not want to make the same mistake a second time. And during that period where I was dating this guy, I read this article that talked about how being sick is such a common event in anyone's life. Like at some point in your life, you're going to be sick and you're going to need the care of the person in your life that loves you. And I was like, oh my God, this is so true. Like I am in my early 40s. I'm on the second side of life right now. And, if I get married again, I, at some point, will probably need to care for my spouse when he's sick. And at some point, he's likely to have to care for me when I'm sick. And I thought that was such a good point and such a good attribute to look for in a spouse. And so I, got on the Zoom call with, let's call him Jake. I don't want to say his real name. I got on the Zoom call with Jake that night and I said, oh my God, look at this article that I read about, really thinking about illness in the second half of life. And if you're, choosing a spouse, that's an important thing. And I said, what do you think? And his response was so cut and dried. He was like, yeah, I'm not really the caregiver type. Like, I am not good with sick people. Like, I'll leave some money to help, but I am not into that. And he had no drama around it. He had no concern that was just such a cold, and I guess to me unfeeling response. And now in retrospect, I actually truly respect his honesty. I was like, okay, there we are. I'm looking for someone who's a little more loving and caring, and he does not think he needs that and is not willing to give that. And I ended the call. I took a little time. I thought about it. I kind of waited and I called him back and said, hey, okay, this isn't going to work out. We're not a good fit for each other. Good luck on your journey. And my friends were always so surprised at how easy it was for me to just be like, it's not a fit, not going to work out. Let's send everyone on their way. But the way I saw it is that my brain could only handle so much input at a time. And that if I was aware that a person wasn't a good fit for me, and I probably would never marry that person, or I did not want to marry that person, there was no point in having him take up space in my brain or take up time on my calendar. I preferred, even if I didn't have an alternative person to date, to use that time to work on my goals or spend that time with my children. And so I think that having a process or having certain principles and a philosophy and a step-by-step way that I evaluated the people that I met really served me in my dating journey. Like I always said it's better for me to keep my space open for the right guy, because if I was with someone who was not the right guy, and then the right guy came along, he wouldn't even ask me out because he would think that I was already taken. Another principle that I applied was that I was always willing to go out of my comfort zone to stretch myself and to grow and transform, to do things that maybe were unusual in order to potentially meet the right person. I also felt like I should always keep learning and growing. And another one was the fact that I felt like I didn't want to wait until I met the right guy to live the life that I wanted. I preferred to live the life that I wanted and then have the guy come along. Now, I'll probably go into more details of the little things that happened along the way as the podcast evolves, but I did want to tell you about the one time I took a break from my dating journey. So I would say from start to finish, when I started dating until the time that I first met my current husband, Kent, was about 18 months to 2 years. So in my life coaching practice, I help my clients do this in about 6 months. But you have to remember, I didn't have a dating coach. I didn't have a life coach at the time. This is a process that I put together myself. And because I've gone through it and applied it to so many women, I can help people do it right around 6 months, give or take a little bit. But at that time, it took me about 2 years to meet the right person. Now, about halfway through my journey, I took a break. And this is a little bit of a funny, not funny story. So I was on a couple of different dating apps. So I put all my information into the app. And then, of course, it starts to match you and it tells you, oh, you've matched with this person about 48%. You've matched with this person 50%. You matched with this person 90%, which means you have all the same interests or you have all the same characteristics, or the app's algorithm thinks that you would make a good match. And so I got on this new app, and within 10 minutes, I matched 99% with my ex-husband. Dun, dun, dun. And I took a look at that message on the app and I told myself, you're not ready. Like, something is going on here and you really need to take a break. So I had been dating for about 9 months at that point, and I was like, okay, obviously I need to do a little more work. And so I just shut down all the apps, not because I was tired of dating, but because to me, that was just a message that God was sending me that, yeah, this is not the right time. And I listened to the message loud and clear. I shut down all the apps and I kind of just went on with my life. I worked on my life coaching practice. I did a lot more travel. And then I came back around a few months later. So on to how I met my now husband. So early in my dating journey, I had kind of been on this app called Bumble, and it was a bit of a ghost town in the area that I live. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and at the time, there just wasn't a lot of people on Bumble. No one was using it. It wasn't popular in this geographical area, so I just got off it pretty quickly. And then when I came back on the apps again to date, after I had taken more time for myself, done more work on myself, and figured out that, okay, this, process wasn't working, or I wasn't ready. When I came back, I said, oh, I'll check out Bumble again. Let's see how it's going. So I got back on Bumble, kind of set it up all over again.
Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates, so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
And there were a lot more people on it at this point. So I started swiping, met a few people. Within about a week, I had several conversations going, and I had a date scheduled with one guy. Now, this is one of the weird things that happens when you're dating is as soon as we got the date scheduled, he immediately stopped conversing with me in an authentic way. Like he just kind of dropped off one-word answers. And I was like, nope. So I canceled the date. And I think the date was supposed to be a Wednesday. And I think I canceled the date on a Saturday. So going into that week, I began tweaking my dating process again. And I just did that constantly. I was constantly working it and reworking it because I always took responsibility for what I wanted my dating experience to be. So I unmatched with this guy, and I took the time to evaluate and learn from that interaction. And still today, I teach my clients to do exactly the same thing. I looked at my process. I did some meditation and thinking and really, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. If I'm attracting this kind of person, obviously the way I'm going about it is still not quite exactly what it needs to be. So I updated my filters with the changes that I came up with. And I remembered that Saturday morning when I met my husband, and I woke up pretty early. I had a time of meditation from about 6 a.m. to about 8 a.m. And I was in that post quiet time glow where you're just feeling really good and all your thoughts are in slow motion. And I, put some ideas down for my business. I put some ideas down for my relationship journey. And then I took my kids, went to drop them off at their martial arts class. And on the way back, the idea just popped into my head. It was like, well, you just raise the age a little bit. Because I think I had the maximum age on there for about 48. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's not a big jump between that and a slightly older person because I'm in my 40s as well. So I went back home. I upped the age. And immediately matched with about 6 or 7 people who had already swiped right on me. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I went ahead and I sent this super generic message to all 7 of them. And this is just one of the principles that I always like to talk about. People always want to tell me, what do I do and what do I say and where do I go and where's the guy exactly? And it's not really about the exact thing you do, even though what you do is important. What really matters is who you are being in that moment, whether it's in your business or in your relationships or in your dating journey. When you have become the right person and are doing the right things, how you do it isn't super important. So I had this generic message just because I was like, I'm just going to do, 7. Oh, there's 7 of them. So I just sent this really generic, hi, this person, how are you? I'm not recommending that, right? But that's what I did at the time. And within an hour, my husband responded to me and we started this conversation that started about noon on a Saturday and went to 10 p.m. Huge blocks of text, just talking back and forth. We had so much in common. We both loved books. We both had children about the same age. It was just perfect. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I asked him if he wanted to meet and we set up a date for the very next day. We met at this cute little mom and pop Korean restaurant about halfway between where we both lived, and we had an amazing time. Our date started about 7 p.m. and of course there's a couple of stories around what happened on the date, which I'll tell you later. And we closed the restaurant down. It was after 10 o'clock. The owners had stacked the chairs up on the tables and were starting to give us funny looks, and we were not ready to leave. But we eventually left, exchanged phone numbers, and the rest is kind of history. We got engaged a year later, and 3 months after we got engaged, we got married. Our dating process was absolutely fun and easy. When you are in the right relationship with the right person, it's easy and effortless. Now, effortless doesn't mean we didn't do any work. We had milestones laid out. we went out a lot. We spent a lot of time together. We did a lot of fun dates, walking, drives, ferry rides, little obscure outings to out of the way historic attractions. But along the way, we also said, okay, we need to meet each other's family, meet each other's friends, visiting churches, looking at our spiritual goals and our life goals and our vision, and really going down every aspect of our lives to make sure that things between us would work for the long term. But everything came together because he was the right person for me and I was the right person for him. In fact, I have my clients do what I call the ideal partner deep dive, which is like an extensive deep dive into the person who would be a good fit for them. I had done this for myself over a period of several months. I had about 60 items on my list, and my husband fit about 58 of those. And the other 2 that he didn't fit are not really things that I think that I really wanted myself anyway. So there's a lot of work that goes into creating and building and maintaining an amazing relationship after a divorce. But what's wonderful about that is that work is productive. And I have to say that even the work that we do in our current marriage is so productive. Like when we put the time in and we put the work in, we see the results of the work that we're putting in versus my first marriage, where I was putting in all this work and all this sacrificial work, and I was super busy and I was doing all of the activities and I was reading all the books and doing all the things that were supposed to make my ex-husband happy. However, all of that all of that effort would just go into what seemed like a black hole and nothing productive would ever come out of it. So that in a nutshell is my dating after divorce story. My husband and I have now been married close to 2 years. We're about 4 months away from our second anniversary. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. And as our children start to leave home, we're in a phase where we're thinking about what we want to do with this second phase of our lives and really what we would like to do with our second chance at love. And of course, as the podcast goes, you will hear all about that. I will continue to give you details of my dating after divorce story as examples on the podcast. But yeah, that's how I did it. I have taken all of that experience and combined it with both of my life coach certifications that I have and a lot of study that I have done in relationships, and created a unique process and approach to dating after divorce that I think is super effective for my clients. And it is just my honor and privilege to be able to give this gift to other women as well. So that's my story. I appreciate your time and attention, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to SadeCurry.com to get started. That's SadeCurry.com. I'll see you inside.